Things are getting messy when multiple drivers start using words you can't air on TV. Martinsville was supposed to be just another race weekend, but it quickly turned into a drama-packed disaster, with drivers fuming, chaos erupting, and fans left wondering, is NASCAR paying attention anymore? From the Cup Series to the Xfinity Series, it felt like nobody was safe from the madness, and it all started with one driver who finally said what many had only whispered out loud: Joey Logano. After getting spun out late in the race, he didn't hold back. On the radio, in interviews, wherever he could, he called out Ross Chastain, flat out calling him a jackass. But that wasn't just trash talk, it was frustration boiling over. Logano believes Chastain cost him a top 5 finish, and frankly, he's had enough. He said it's always him who ends up paying for Chastain's overly aggressive style. The worst part? Chastain walked away with a 6th place finish, while Logano had to settle for 8th. Not terrible on paper, but when you know you have more in the tank, it stings hard. But here's where it gets even more surprising. This wasn't just one incident. This race weekend exposed something bigger, a recurring pattern. NASCAR drivers are starting to lash out, and not just because of one crash. There's a growing sense that certain behaviors are going unchecked. Maybe the system isn't holding people accountable. And fans? They're noticing it too. If NASCAR doesn't start stepping in, or at least listening, won't be the last time someone explodes on the mic. And trust me, this was just the beginning of the chaos that unfolded in Martinsville. Because coming up next, things only get worse. Repeat offenders? Check. Dirty moves? Plenty. And wait until you hear what Denny Hamlin had to say. Not just about Cup drivers, but the younger ones coming up too. So stick around, because the next part of this story might just prove NASCAR's got a much bigger problem than anyone realized. Now, to be fair, let's talk about the actual race quality. Compared to the previous 2 nights, Martinsville delivered a better show this time. Sure, there were cautions, plenty of them, but that's Martinsville. If anything, it brought back some of that classic short-track energy. And although Joey Logano had his share of contact during the race, it wasn't the usual wreckfest fans dreaded. Rough? Definitely. But it wasn't a total mess. Still, just when it seemed like things might settle down, lap 200 rolled around, and suddenly, we had another problem. This time, it wasn't Logano or Chastain at the center of the drama. It was Austin Cindric and Riley Herbst, with a side of AJ Allmendinger caught in the chaos. They were battling for 27th place, not exactly a position worth going to war over, but Cindric looked like he left rear-hooked Herbst. Now, in NASCAR terms, that's no small accusation, and someone very close to the situation had thoughts, loud ones. Denny Hamlin, Herbst's boss, didn't hold back on his podcast. He straight up called out Cindric's behavior and suggested we might be looking at a pattern of dirty driving. Why? Because this isn't Cindric's first time under the spotlight. Earlier this season at COTA, he got hit with a $50,000 fine and docked 50 points for a similar move on Ty Dillon. So when the Martinsville incident happened, you can imagine Hamlin's frustration. NASCAR might have ruled it a racing incident, but Hamlin clarified it. That kind of move doesn't just happen by accident. And he's not alone in thinking that. Fans, drivers, and insiders, more and more people are starting to question where the line is. When does aggressive racing become reckless? And why does it always seem to go unchecked until someone gets seriously hurt or furious enough to speak out? Cindric might not be the villain of Martinsville, but this latest move just added fuel to a fire that's been burning quietly all season. And guess what? That wasn't even the end of the drama. Because next up, we've got Denny Hamlin throwing shade at a whole new generation of drivers, and it's sparking even more controversy. Stay tuned, it's about to get heated. Just when you thought the Cindric drama was at its peak, Denny Hamlin turned up the volume and came after everyone. And this time, he wasn't just focused on one driver. He had smoked for the whole Xfinity field. On his podcast, Hamlin went off, naming names, and he didn't hold back. He slammed Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, and Sammy Smith, saying straight up, they drove like a-holes. Not exactly the PR line NASCAR wants floating around after a race weekend, but Hamlin wasn't in the mood for sugarcoating. He went into detail too. Said Hill wrecked someone from 4 car lengths back, not close racing, just reckless. Called out Mayer for jumping onto Christian Eckes' bumper with no regard for consequence. And then there was Sammy Smith, who didn't wait for NASCAR to call him out. He started a post-race fight with Taylor Gray right in front of everyone. Hamlin's message? Enough is enough. He suggested that public shaming might be necessary to make these drivers think twice. According to him, the lack of accountability shows not just aggression, but immaturity and flat-out disrespect for the sport and their fellow competitors. And Hamlin wasn't alone in this frustration. Christopher Bell also chimed in, and let's just say he wasn't impressed either. He didn't mince words, calling the Xfinity race a disgrace and flat-out embarrassing for NASCAR. He said watching that race made his blood boil. And isn't just coming from a place of rivalry. Bell's concern was for the bigger picture. He pointed out something important. While the Cup Series has made improvements with cleaner racing and better standards, Xfinity seems to be sliding backward. According to Bell, this weekend showed how far that series has fallen in terms of racing etiquette. His message was clear: something's got to change. Whether that's stricter penalties, more oversight, or just a serious sit-down with younger drivers, Bell thinks NASCAR needs to step up before things spiral even further. Just when it looked like the chaos might finally be over, overtime hit the Xfinity Series like a wrecking ball. On that final restart, Sammy Smith sent Taylor Gray spinning in turn 3, a bold move that not only ruined Gray's night, but completely backfired on Smith himself. Instead of charging toward victory, he got caught in the mess he helped create. But out of all that smoke and sliding metal, one driver stayed clean: Austin Hill. He slipped through the wreckage like a magician pulling off a vanishing act and came out the other side with the win. But the drama didn't stop at the checkered flag. Post-race, tempers flared and the chaos spilled right into pit road. The crash may have ended the race, but it opened the door for even more criticism about how this series is being handled. In the midst of all this, Christopher Bell was asked something interesting. Should senior Cup drivers step in to mentor these younger racers? At first, he hadn't thought about it, but the more he considered it, the more it made sense. Bell understands that something has to change, and if it means leading by example, then maybe that's where Cup veterans can step in. He's not saying they need to babysit, but it's clear these younger drivers are learning the wrong lessons right now. Aggression is fine, it's part of racing, but when it turns into avoidable wrecks, post-race fights, and a total lack of respect, then it's no longer competition. It's chaos. And that brings us to the big question. Where does NASCAR go from here? Do they need to lay down the law more often? Is the lack of discipline allowing this kind of behavior to thrive in both the Cup and Xfinity Series? Or is it just a phase that drivers will grow out of on their own? We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us what you think. Will things get worse before they get better? Or is a major shift in culture just around the corner? If you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next wild story from the world of NASCAR. And trust us, you're going to want to stick around because the next controversy might already be brewing. See you in the next one.